Welcome to the Unconditionally Loved podcast. I'm your host, Jeanne Street, and today my guest is Audrey Stimpson. Audrey is an incredible human being. I met her during a class that I took with Michelle Fredson, and we went into this writing class open-hearted, not knowing each other's story. And today, Audrey is going to fill in some blanks for you about her life of living with ADD, of medication. She talks a lot about her personal journey of getting off Adderall and of being a special needs mom. It's a very, I want to say, emotional conversation because we're going into areas that are uncomfortable, because we're going to talk about our vulnerability. We're going to talk about our energy and how sometimes we do need to take a break and walk away. I know you're going to love this conversation, so let's dive in. So here we are, and I'm so glad to see you. It's been a long time since we got to hang out on video with each other.
I know.
So how is life for you as a mom, a businesswoman, everything, sensitive to energy?
Well, it's been a lot this past 2 years. After my son's diagnosis with cystic fibrosis, it was definitely, I was already on my healing journey, coming off of meds, and I went back to school to help other people. But then, mom life hits you and you kind of step back a bit from healing and kind of realize you need to heal again because you have this stress and this lack of sleep and all these things.
Which kind of pokes at, who you are anyways and how you stepped into all that medication. Do you want to share your journey a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's just dial back a little bit.
So I have ADHD. I was diagnosed at a young age. I was actually diagnosed later as an adult as being a little bit on the spectrum as well as being ADHD because they didn't really diagnose it back then. But I was put on medication at the age of 7 years old. And I was on it for 23 years. I didn't really know a life without that. And I thought that that's who I was. These stimulants made me feel like I could do anything and it made me do things that I didn't really love in life. And I started so young before puberty that I didn't really get a grasp on who I was before. Even just becoming a woman, knowing who I was. And then I kind of started using it for weight loss. And then I had more anxiety and more depression after being on these medications for a long time. They prescribed me more medications. Then that led to alcohol. It led to a lot of other things that exacerbated in life. And I just kept continuing to go and do all the hard things that the world requires of you, the go, go, go. And I moved to New York as a fashion photographer to get my master's. And I kept hustling and trying to do all these things, and it just needed more and more medication. It stopped working. And eventually I got so sick that I was in the hospital for the third time, and I knew something had to change. I was like, I have to get off of these medications if I ever want to have a loving relationship, if I ever want to. And this is not against all medications, but Adderall specifically just caused a lot of damage over time.
Can we tap into just a little bit that, calling of where it came from for you to move off the medication? Because this is you as a sensitive soul, you having that connection to source energy, the divine, having that intuition.
So for me, I knew it just had been a really long journey. I'd started meditating, I'd started healing, I'd started trying to separate myself from triggers. And then I just realized the one thing that was still holding me back, the one thing that was really in the way. And for me, I knew it was in the way because I couldn't wake up and not want to reach for my pill. I didn't think that I could survive without that Adderall to get me going. I actually didn't believe that I could live life without Adderall. And so for me, I knew it was an addiction, even though I was prescribed, because I just couldn't stop. And it was the first thing I thought about anywhere I went. It was always on my to-do list, pick up meds, go to a psychiatrist. It was just and I'd been on other meds before and it wasn't the same as this, not, this medication specifically. It was very, very strong and very addictive. So for me, I knew I needed to get off of it. And I just knew I wasn't going to have a good relationship with anyone other than, this drug, like if I didn't get off of it, because it was my addiction.
Right. It was like where the focus was, and what we focus on just becomes the thing we kind of worship, right? That kind of like, I love how you just said that. It was like the first thing you thought of, because it just kind of takes over the living.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then how did you, and I know this is what you do in your work, but just to kind of share with the audience, like, how did you stop? How did you break away from that cycle?
Well, the first thing I did was I separated myself from the triggers. I removed myself from New York City at the time, retreated to nature, started grounding, getting outside. And then I knew, like, I started weaning down, which for me was just like ripping off a Band-Aid every single time.
Mm.
But then I knew, like, I needed to do more to get rid of the addiction, to get rid of the memory of addiction. So I started working on the trauma through the therapy. I then, went out on a gut cleanse because, after much research, the gut microbiome affects our brain, our gut brain connection. And so healing the gut can heal a lot of those ADHD symptoms. And a lot of times, like 70% of those with ADHD have gluten sensitivity and other sensitivities that they have not addressed first. And so I kind of did this reset after meeting this woman, Tandy Gutierrez. She'd healed herself from thyroid and celiac and all of these issues. And so she gave me her book and I started reading it. And that was kind of my first intro into gut healing. And at the time, I didn't know that I was healing myself functionally, which means looking at the whole person and not just one thing. It's not just diet, not just lifestyle. It's inflammation, it's underlying stressors, it's trauma, it's genetic polymorphisms. It's all of these different things that you have to look at. And just stress alone inhibits the formation of hormones and neurotransmitters. Lack of sleep. I mean, looking at all of these things is what I was doing, but I didn't know that that's what it was at the time.
Right.
And after doing this, I really also set out to create art and to create awareness and start talking about my story via videos on Instagram. And it kind of became a way to get through that withdrawal and a way to like share that. And then I realized so many other people were struggling as well. And I wanted to tell my story and write a book about it. So I set out with Rochelle Fredson, and that's how I met you, to start writing that story. And then because, the agents loved it, everyone thought it was great, but they were like, you need to be certified in nutrition to really write this book. Because you're giving a lot of advice. And so I went back to school.
Of course.
Now I'm back in her program again. Actually.
Okay.
I just started back, and I'm.
Oh, you're doing another round of the book proposal?
Not another round of it, but I'm
okay.
just in her monthly container right now.
Nice.
Finishing the proposal, just because I'm writing the nutrition chapter.
Right.
And so then I'll resubmit and then we'll just see what happens. But
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Like the journey that you've been on is literally awe-inspiring. And then on top of like you creating this platform, which you serve so many people. Like I go on and I'm like, look at all of these people that you're helping. I can just imagine what God's going to do with this book, because people that don't go to social media, people that just need it in their hand so they can follow this pattern of, oh my gosh, I've known it all along. You're going to serve and support so many people. And then, your baby, your child, and being a parent of a special needs child, and that emotional, I'll say trauma, because it's traumatizing to have a special needs child.
It's been a lot.
a lot on your personal relationship too, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's set me back a little bit on my healing journey. And that's another thing that has been kind of in the way of finishing the book. It's like, but I'm not all the way healed, but I still have all of these things that I need to deal with. And remembering why I'm showing up, because there is no such thing as healing that's like a destination. I mean, you're going to have ups and downs and things that happen in your life that are going to set you back and put you on a path where you feel like, well, why I can't help other people because I'm still struggling or because I've gone through something. And so going through that was a big journey. And I'm back to now realizing that you don't have to always be fully healed to help other people.
I tell people that come in for personal readings all the time, it's not a one and done. Like, no matter where you are, like if someone comes to me for grief, it's not like the grief is just going to go away. But the goal is for me not to become, is like giving them the tools so they don't become the pain. And yes, we're going to continue to have life experiences, but we can totally teach ourselves what we're safe. And you've shown yourself, I am safe. And if that takes a pause in the writing because you need a little more therapy, then you're safe. That's how I see that. And I feel like you just needed to experience that, right?
Yeah.
And remember, like, there's no one above. So to think that we're going to get done here and like the expert is like completely healed and they don't have any other shit in their life is just such a lie. Such a lie.
It's true.
Yeah.
And there's so many things we go through in life, like you're talking about grief. We go through deaths of loved ones. We go through diagnoses. We go through lack of sleep for 2 years as a new mother, or things like, just ongoing traumatic stress that all of a sudden you're like having issues again, maybe GI issues, maybe having flare-ups with thyroid because of stress. Like, and you felt like, okay, now I've got to work on this again. I've got to establish this connection with my nervous system.
Yes.
I need to get outside again. I need to maybe get off of social media so much.
This is such a good, important conversation right here. It's just juicy. Because like we do ebb and flow. For myself, even like I've had to like take time to heal some things in, in our family that's been going on. And they really sent me for that loop, like you said, and awaken the trauma response of, oh, I'm not safe. My gut's like inflamed. And so what do we do? Like when you've already like thought you healed something, you start to worry again. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go down this road again. I'm not going to be okay. What did I do wrong? What did I eat? And you start like being hypervigilant.
Which makes it even worse.
Yes.
That's stress. It's big. It's so big. And then you start to rebuild and start to navigate this new business and these new things and like trying to do this and trying to do that. And then you're realizing, wow, like I'm getting back into the thing that I got away from.
Yes.
And so how to live in this world. I think a lot of it is very overwhelming. Like, you want to do and be all the things for all the people. But if you're not showing up for yourself, learning, okay, wait, maybe I should cancel that. Maybe I need to like take a step back and focus on my family. Maybe I need to get outside more. Maybe I need to go back to therapy, and maybe I need to do the reset again on the food. And just kind of like paying attention to my body. Because as a mom too, like you get, just busy, you don't think about eating, you don't have time to cook. Like, our digestion is the biggest stressor on our body daily. So, if we're not taking time to eat, smelling our food, like cooking our food, enjoying our meals, slowing down. And I mean, I know you've gone through so much in this past few years as well, like with your husband. I know he was sick. Is that right?
Yeah, he actually, his heart stopped. He had, very interestingly, he is so sensitive to energy, but, he had a business, he worked, and he would constantly get diverticulitis because he was doing all the things that didn't go along with his gut, didn't go along with his own body. And so there was friction between like me trying to serve him and help him, but like he needed to do it himself. So that becomes like an issue, like, 9 times to go to the hospital for diverticulitis is a lot. And I had decided that I would no longer going to the hospital. I'm like, look, I just can't do it anymore. And then he ended up in the hospital again. He had a break between, I don't know, it was like a year and a half between his time that he had the diverticulitis, and this particular time. And it was during, the pandemic. And so I couldn't be with him or anything. So I was like, all right, this is okay. Like, he's going to be okay. And his heart stopped. And the whole thing was bizarre. The whole thing was just bizarre in the way that, maybe bizarre is not the right word. It's more like I was witnessing how I was showing up in a way, because instead of freaking out and doing my normal thing, I got on my yoga mat and I found my tools that supported me. I made a green juice while I was waiting to hear from the doctor, like, because there was no reason for me to freak out, which is what I had taught myself. I'm safe to be with me. I'm safe to be here. There wasn't anything I was going to do that was going to change that in between time when I found out that his heart stopped and what they were doing with him. I couldn't go to the hospital. I couldn't call that. There was nothing. So I'm going to do this. And obviously he's good, and he had a near-death experience. He's good now. He did have a pacemaker. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And we have 4 grown children. And on top of like navigating being a parent of adult children, of who's on first, being empty nesters, of my daughter navigating a divorce. There was just a lot of things at once that could totally send you into the spinny spirals of depletion.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. But then, having someone like you show up on social and share your truth and share like a little video of you in the kitchen cooking a meal, of doing that yoga, like those are the reminders those are the good things we can take from, I think, our experience on social. We can get lost in the comparison of this, the scroll, but if we tune into the frequency of like, what's going to serve me and how then can I serve myself before I serve others. I think when we slow it down, it's beautiful.
I mean, I can relate so much to that. I mean, I'm still in the waiting game with my son. His liver enzymes are very elevated. I got COVID actually. And so he has like extremely elevated liver enzymes due to CF, and he can't be put on modulators until we get them down, and we don't know what's really going on. And as someone that like works in nutrition and like trying to do all the things and like just not being able to control it and having to wait to get labs, and like, I've been back in therapy for using the MDR because of that trauma of the waiting, like constantly like getting labs are up. What are we going to do? Let's do these labs. Let's, and, does he have liver disease? Like, it's just he's 2 years into, I mean, you just, the amount, as a mother, like there's no love you have that is greater than the love of a child. Yeah. And you cannot explain it to anybody. And it's the most gut wrenching. Like you feel like you've been sucker punched, like you just can't breathe. And so what do you do when you're in that situation and you still have to navigate life, business, money, financial stuff, like being a partner.
Right.
So I think, continuing to show up for myself has been really, really important, getting back into therapy, continuing those morning routines, the lemon water, the morning meditation, the getting outside, going on walks, just checking in with myself, like when I start to spiral, how to get back down to center, telling myself I'm safe, I'm loved, and focusing on my like relationship with God. I've been like a lot more into, reading the Bible and getting more into my relationship with God because I have no control. And I think like this experience has brought me closer because I do feel that is the only thing I can do is pray. Like,
I love you. I love you so much. And I think this is such a beautiful conversation, and an important part of all of our work in this world is we came in as the perfect light. We came in knowing unconditional love, and our journey through life it takes us away from it. It takes us to like almost forget about God. And when we start remembering and start coming back and we start reading scripture, it literally starts coming to us. God speaks to us.
yeah,
You'll see a sign, somebody will say something, whatever it is, and then we start to build that faith. And it's in that faith where we find the nuances of a miracle. We find the shifts of a focus, instead of maybe living in that depletion state where you used to be, like just knowing I am safe. Oh, let me call a therapist. I am safe. Ooh, I'm going to make this meal. Like, it's the little things. It's not like a one and done. It's, how am I showing up in this moment? How am I having this interview? How am I, caring for my son when he's, just hit me in the head? Like, how are you, being a regular person instead of looking for the evidence that life is terrible?
God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of love and of power.
Amen, girl. Amen.
That one has been a big one for me. But yeah, it's powerful, and it's really helped me. I mean, I don't think I could have gotten through that without, prayer and like really believing something bigger than myself. And for me, that was actually a big journey because I kind of lost sight of God for a long time.
And it's when we come back, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, I hope that people listening understand that, like, if you're in that season of being questioning or wondering, like, that's actually normal. And when you find God again, when you find the memory, it will supercharge you.
Well,
yeah,
it gives me chills thinking about it, but I honestly could not have gotten through the past year without that change in my thinking and how I navigate all of these things. I mean, it's been my lifeline for sure. So
do you have Vance, does he have a weighted blanket, or a blanket that has crystals in it?
he does not.
I love that so much for him. I actually made a blanket like that for a baby that I saw years ago. Actually, I shared his story in my second book, Braden. And, it just came to me that he needed this. So my daughter helped me make it, and we made, she sewed little pockets. I got the crystals. We just had this really beautiful, because I didn't have any time to sew. So she put it together, and we bought him, gave this to her, his mom, and he slept with it every day. And it really aided his journey into healing and shifting.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I love that. And I feel specific around, what, I'll send you the crystal that I feel like he needs. And I feel like that will help with the liver.
Okay.
Yeah. And the laughter is a really good part with cleansing the liver, which I know it's not really a lot of fun in your house, but it's okay. Like, if you can find the giggles,
Yeah.
You and your husband, like, that will automatically help him.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I feel you.
And
I'm
also
glad.
learning to be authentic in everything that we do. Like, sometimes we get into this new, like you said, the comparison and the things on social media. Like, sometimes we realize, oh wait, like, why am I doing this again? Like, who am I doing this for? Like,
right.
And kind of, I think if everyone could learn to be themselves and to be authentic in who they are, I truly believe that no one would be unhappy, because I feel like most of us are just afraid to just be ourselves, to just let that truth show and that authenticity. And it's just so easy to get lost in that along the way. I don't know if you agree.
I agree 100,000,000%, because when you step into the world of being in a business, it feels a lot different than just being you. Like, because now all of a sudden you, as this soft, gentle, have more feminine qualities, you know, this imbalance, the masculine and the feminine are in balance, and there's an equal support of them. But when you go into a world of business, it's a lot of logic, and that throws that masculine energy a little higher, and then a little higher, and and so all of a sudden you're so far away from that soft juiciness of who you are. And, you know, things have to get done, and, you know, you have all these to-do lists and all these tasks, and then you start leaning in and being like, ooh, well, this is how they're doing it. And all of a sudden you lose parts of you, and you're wondering, where the hell did I go?
Yeah. That is, where did I go? And like, I think it's just, we always, it's that not a linear path. It's not like just a streamlined path of healing of like, okay, like I'm veered off a little bit.
Yeah.
I need to figure out how to get back.
And if it's not fun, like, this is the thing I've really been pouring into for the last couple of years is, you know, when I closed my studio in 2019, and I started, you know, doing my work at home, I started painting, I started being creative, I started having more time and space to cultivate the love inside of me. And I'm like, if this feels fun, I'll do it. If it doesn't feel fun, it's a no. And it's so safe to say no, but we don't think it's safe. We feel like I'm going to miss an opportunity, but no, you're so safe to make sure that that is in a frequency, whatever it is, that it feels fun and good, because that's how joy grows. That's how love grows. That's how we are really authentically us.
Yeah.
And we can hear God that way. We can't hear him when we're in charge.
Yeah. I agree.
Can't lead us if we are like, gotta get it done
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's an overwhelming one. So now, yeah, I'm focusing on helping others heal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get back to writing the book. I had a call with Rochelle in the group yesterday, and she's just like, you don't have to tell them every single thing that they need to do. You just have to give them the best tools. Like, I'm just like, you're right. Like, I feel like a lot of times we feel like we need to have all of it figured out before we do. And, you know, it's like, I thought I could write the book before I got the certification. And then I got the certification and I know so much. And then I'm like, oh, but I need to know more. But I need to know before I write this. And
but isn't that how the devil works, right? Because it's never enough. And he's so quiet behind the scenes, that fear that tricks us away from, I am enough. This is enough. Because there will be another iteration of you that will write a new book that will take that to the next level. So be this one, right?
Give them the information they need to know now and serve that person that you had. And so, yeah, and I'm working as functional nutrition counselor at Sundara Wellness and sometimes at New Day Wellness, a couple of days a week, and kind of focusing on just helping people as much as I can.
As you help yourself. And I'm sure, like me, your clients come and resemble something you've already gone through, something you've already experienced, or something you're working through, because that's how great God is. He's like, ooh, I need you to go here a little bit more with yourself, a little deeper in your own trauma, a little bit more further with this grief.
Yeah. And sometimes people come to me and I say, you know, we got to focus. Your root right now is like dealing with actually like something else, and like the food stuff will come later, but like I got to go back and focus on this healing first. And I think that that's like something that's like helping people find the root cause. It could be genetics, polymorphism, like it could be, you know, they have an underlying autoimmunity, or haven't gotten the right testing done, or they have a thyroid issue, or they have trauma, or they're not sleeping,
or they have trauma. Like literally, we all do, especially since we've lived through a pandemic together. We have, you know, energy, even if we didn't have a big, bad, scary experience, there's energy of it that's still kind of around. So, and we have to process emotion. We have to feel feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we forget to do as well.
And I mean, it's also looking at inflammation and food sensitivities and healing the gut.
Right.
Because of the gut-brain connection, and 90% of our serotonin is in our gut, and 70% of our immune system, and most of our DNA is actually microbial in nature, not human. So fixing that gut microbiome, doing the right testing is kind of also, sometimes people have candida or yeast overgrowth or gut imbalances. And so helping them figure out what it is that's causing that root depression or anxiety, even could be mold in their home. You don't know. There's so many things. And so helping them navigate that and helping them heal helps me heal.
What would be, so if we take those areas, kind of like you just said, like mold, what would be the symptom of a mold in the gut? Like, what would that look like for someone?
You have mold mycotoxins, so in the gut, but like mold in your home, it could be brain fog, could be anxiety, depression, food sensitivities. I mean, it could be headaches, chronic fatigue, chronic pain. You can look up mold, because a lot of times like that can be the underlying issue for even weight gain, for just so many things. And I've learned a lot about that. I even had my home tested for mold because I was concerned about it. There were mold spores in the air. And so we got like an air doctor for our house to help filter a lot of that. My son's breathing has been better, less coughing, since we've done that. I mean, it's these things that like, I know that I was exposed to a lot of mold in New York, like a lot, like all these old buildings I lived in. And I remember how my humidifier had like this black mold in it, like, I'd clean it out and I'd be like, I never thought about it being chronically something that made me sick, but it did coincide around a lot of the same time I was having a lot of food sensitivities. So when I ask people for their timelines now, like one of the big things I ask is like, were you exposed to mold? Your home, did your home ever have mold?
And how would they get tested for that? Like, what would be the starting point?
Testing for mycotoxins, and you can also do ERMI testing in your home to test for mold spores. But yeah, there's ways to navigate that and to detox your body from mold, but also working with like a practitioner to do the right testing and kind of get to the bottom of that.
And now that's something that they can do with you. Is that the journey that you bring them on? Yeah.
We can do, and also aiding in detoxification pathways like dry brushing, lymphatic drainage, rebounding on a mini trampoline, castor oil packs around the liver. A lot of this stuff too can help detox the body. A lot of those with ADHD specifically have genetic polymorphisms where they're not able to detox folic acid, or don't have enough B vitamins, so they can't detox properly, and they're not actually able to. That a lot of times they'll have excess homocysteine in their blood, which can lead to inflammation. So kind of making sure that they're taking a methylfolate or B12 to help with the detoxification. So some stuff like that like no one's ever tested them for.
Right.
That, making sure that they have the right lab wish list, like to ask for the right test from their doctor.
Right.
To get them all, and a lot of times too with chronic disease, like they're not testing for like, or they're not looking at, did this start after a medication? Did this, start after birth control?
Right.
This, a lot of times symptoms can start after that. So looking at a timeline in history is a big thing. And we also do a food, mood, poop journal, because your mood and your food and your poop says a lot about what's going on in there. If you're not pooping, you're not excreting waste. So if your poop is floating, you're not digesting fats well. If you're, having diarrhea, you could have like underlying bacterial overgrowth, which you can test for with a GI map stool test, like constipation. You could have H. pylori. Like, there's just so many things that I did not know. And it's just helped me so much to know how to look at those things and how to listen to my body and how to know, okay, well, like, I don't tolerate this. Like, if I eat this, I feel A, B, C, and D, or I'm not balancing my blood sugar. I'm not eating fat, fiber, and protein at every meal. So I'm anxious all the time. I'm having these blood sugar spikes. Like, I'm just doing, so I think just looking at each person as a bio individual person is what I like aim to do, because every single person is different. Every single person has different food sensitivities, different needs. Like, a smoothie is not going to work for everybody. Sometimes they need to eat just protein. I mean, like, it's just, it varies from person to person, how they are genetically, how they are epigenetically with their lifestyle, how they are inflammation wise. So looking at all three of those tiers and helping someone heal by looking at them as a person and not them as like their symptom, like not just placating a symptom.
Powerful, girl. I think you're like gonna explode. Like, it just feels so good and so on point, especially because you're so sensitive to energy and you don't just do what you were taught, you lean into what God guides you to. Like, it feels like that channeling that you do, I don't even know if you're fully aware of it, but like, you can lean in with someone and go a little further because of those sensitivities, because of your own tapping in. Yeah.
Sometimes that can be overwhelming. And so I've had to learn to protect myself. I've been helping a lot more people. And that's something I've noticed too, is that I need to like really rebalance my energy after being with different people all the time and healing and helping and giving. When you're giving and you're giving and you're giving, you're giving all the time. Sometimes you got to take a step back from that too. Like, there's just this ebb and this flow and this balance and this listening in and learning how to be sensitive and how to also have boundaries and all of the things. I mean, it's just, there is no roadmap. And that's the thing that I really want to bring home with my book, is that there's things to look out for. There's things to navigate and see and try, but there is no one fixed set diet protocol, anything that's going to work for every single person. There is not one. We are all so different. And so that is why diets don't work. Also, our brain, amygdala, like it signals that stress response and like stores the trauma. We can only do so much. So like, we can't do it all at once because our brain is like, nope, too much, too fast. Like, I can't do it. And so just learning to deal with that too, and how to help people do things slowly, add things in, otherwise it won't work.
Well, it's so it's so true. Like, the people that come into my program to work with their gifts, to whether they're going to be a medium or a healer, we tap into this. Like, you might want it like all at once, but you think they think they're here for the mediumship, but they're really come into the program to heal, like to work through those triggers, to shift the frequency that they're living in, both internally and then externally, like, because they have to match and be cohesive for that, next iteration of them, for the next level of healing to come through. And everything has to kind of line up. And when we're off balance, I think this is like that, like you taking space to come in and do that next level healing. It's like, you couldn't do it before, because you have to do it now, because now your brain is like, all right, there's a lot going on and I need a break. And that's how we ebb and flow through life. And learning that we can attune our energy to a different frequency. We can tap in and be calm with the foods, with the meditation, with the exercise. Like, we can do all of that so that we are in that coherence of love, and then take that next step forward. So I feel like it's so good and juicy.
Thank you.
Mm.
I'm I love seeing what you're doing in the world too and helping other people. It's just so important to show up authentically and continue to help as many people as we can, but also continue to take care of ourselves.
Yes, exactly. So I've been asking people when they come on, like, what's something fun that you're really lit up about in your life and your business right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Helping people in general, like, has been to see that they're enough and that they can do things and change things, and um, helping them see the bigger picture, um, and put the pieces together. I think I really like putting the pieces together because I feel like that is a big thing that is something that my ADHD helps me with, seeing all the things.
I
And a lot of
love that
times,
you just did that. I
yeah,
love that you just gave the yumminess of your AD. You like circled it back to something that is good instead of something that is bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, of course. I mean, I've always felt everything so deeply. I feel this and this and this and so many things going on. It's not that I can't focus. I just focus on a lot of things at once. And so I'm able to focus on a lot of things at once and look at all the things and look at these pieces and put them together. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm putting this puzzle together for a client and they're seeing the puzzle put together and they're seeing it for themselves. So then they were able to make change. When they don't see it for themselves, it's harder to make the change. But when they see, oh, wow, this makes me feel better. Oh, wow, this doesn't make me feel good. And you let them see it. You let them put the pieces together themselves. And then there's this shift that you see in them in every aspect of their life. I mean, I have one client I've been working with for a year. And she did have she wanted to lose a lot of weight because of PCOS and, insulin resistance and other things. She had, symptoms, but she has worked so hard, and she's fallen in love with herself. She's and now fallen in love, like seeing like her heal herself, but also find love because she loves herself.
That's the frequency work. Yes.
That is like what it's all about, like seeing them actually heal so that they can find love in other areas of their life, or find a business that they love, or, let go of something that doesn't light them up. And it's not just about a diet or food or anything. It's about loving yourself enough to change.
Yes.
And make those changes. And she's lost 100 pounds.
Wow. That's incredible.
And she has lowered her A1C. Like she's, able to come off birth control for like PCOS. Like she's just amazing. I mean, she's transformed the things that were really limiting her in her life. And now she's able to say that she loves herself and find love herself, which is just really beautiful.
It's amazing. I love that. That's a success right there, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not about weight loss. I mean, they have other clients that's not their goal. Right. Like it's about whatever it is that is their goal and their healing journey, and like helping them attain that, but then also seeing like what comes out of that healing, like bigger than just what their, initial little goal, like their, goal was. It becomes way bigger than that because they've loved themselves and they've healed.
This kind of reminds me of like when someone comes in and, I do a group reading and, I'm like, look, you can come in with like this idea of what you want. Like, you want this, God's going to give you that, but you're going to receive so much more. You think you want just this one message, but there's so much more that comes through that lifts them. And when we're open, I feel like that's what happens both for us and for the people that come in to do that great work with us, to be reminded that they have it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
What is a fun fact about you?
Fun fact. I guess I did theater in high school and I used to sing a lot.
Ooh.
Really knows that about me.
I like that. That's fun.
I used to write poetry a lot, and And I used to be a fashion photographer. That's interesting.
That is interesting. So there's a lot of fun facts there about you. Tell everyone where they can come hang out with you.
So they can find me on Instagram at Audrey Stimpson, AudreyStimpson. It's just my name. And also the same website there. You can go to audreystimpson.com. You can get a free consult there if you'd like. And yeah, I'm always available for email at audreystimpson.com. If you want any of the things that I've talked about too, like if anybody wants one of the lab wish list, something to ask for, I'm happy to, share that.
I definitely want that. I'm coming for that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people just don't know the labs to ask for. And that's really helpful to just get the right and the full picture.
It is so helpful to have that support when you are entering into feeling better. And when you don't feel good, you get desperate, and I like that there are these resources that you have that they don't have to feel desperate when they enter a new office or working with someone. They have a plan. They're like, here, this is what feels really good for me. Yeah. Well, I hope you'll come back on when the book is ready.
I definitely will. I'll be finishing the book proposal in June and resubmitting it to someone who's waiting on it. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm just going to give it to the universe, and whatever is meant to happen, it's meant to happen. I want someone to want the book. I want someone to believe in the story and the message. And if they don't jive with it, then that's not the person that's meant to help me get this out.
Well, I feel like just write it with that in mind. I feel like you already know you're a super manifester. So just remember your own superpowers. Like it's there. It's right there.
Thank you.
I'll be holding you and Vance and your husband in my prayers continually.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, hon.
Yes, it was such a pleasure.
All right, lovey. I told you were going to love Audrey, and everything that she's offering in this conversation was so beautiful. Did you take notes? Because I certainly did. You can find all of Audrey's information in our show notes. Please know that I'm holding you in my prayers, and I'm grateful and thankful that you're here. If you haven't yet subscribed or left me a review, I would highly appreciate that. I hope that you have a great day, and remember, you are unconditionally loved.